with the conclusion of the spring split, moving into summer split, the NA and EU LCS would be moving to a best of 2 and best of 3 format, respectively. NA is going to be a best of 3, and EU is going to be a best of 2. You guys familiar with how best of 2s and 3s work?
Yep.
So the first question, obviously, would be why splitting between best of 2 and best of 3 between the two regions? Because obviously now each region is going to have different length and broadcast schedule.
Honestly, I don't really know why they decided to do that. They didn't really explain why, have they? I think that if they're going to do something like that, they should have done it for both regions at the same time. Especially with the way that... well, I guess it doesn't really matter in terms of fantasy because that's just a bonus thing that other people play. But I don't know how they're going to transition that into the fantasy and how they apply points and everything.
So Riot actually did come up with an article, and they mentioned that we're not quite sure which one we want to do, so we want to kind of split it up. So one place can do best of 2s and one place can do best of 3s. And looking at the article, they just basically went through why they did that change, and they briefly talked through how the streaming schedule is going to be changed. And we'll get into the streaming schedule first, but so the question obviously would be, do you prefer best of 2s or do you prefer best of 3s?
So, well, just to get things to start too, the best of 2s is the way that they have it right now. Is that the way it is?
It's best of 1s right now.
Best of 1s. So
best of 2 means a team plays two consecutive games
in the same day.
In the same days.
Okay.
After each other. So TSM plays Immortals twice in a row.
Right.
If you win both games, it's a win and it's 3 points. If you go 1-1, it's a tie. You get 1 point. If you lose, if you go 0-2, that's a loss and you get 0 points.
Okay.
Randy, any thoughts?
I like the best of 2 because then you have the ties, so it allows bad teams to sneak up and get a point. And then good teams lose out on 2 potential points when they fail and give up a game.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I'm a huge fan of best of 2s as well because, as Randy pointed out earlier, as a good team, you absolutely cannot sandbag. You can't Immortals can't randomly drop a game to Dignitas because they were digging around. That could have, the difference of 2 points is a huge margin in the long run. So, I actually prefer best of 2s. And from a streaming schedule standpoint, a best of 2 has sort of a steady schedule, whereas best of 3, it could go to a potential of 2 games or 3 games.
Right.
So, from like a spectator and from a caster and from a broadcast standpoint, best of 3s are a huge cluster. And as a reference, the China League, LPL, they're doing best of 2s, and LCK, they're doing best of 3s. And honestly, I think best of 2s are better to watch because I don't want to sit in front of a computer for 8 hours.
Right. Especially with us doing the podcast, it's already enough watching one game per team. I think best of 2s would work better in this case then because you do, you don't have a random tiebreaker game every once in a while. So, I think it would definitely be better because, good teams cannot drop games. They have to play every game seriously.
All right, okay. So, speaking of teams, the next question is, which team will do better in a best-of format?
Well, we know that TSM traditionally does do well in best of 3, best of 5 games. Mm-hmm. Even if they drop the first 1 or 2 games, they do end up adapting and learning how to play against what they're playing. But in terms of, I guess, really young teams who haven't had that experience yet, they're going to do better in the best of 1 format because they're going to try something new that nobody has ever seen before. But once they go into a long game or a long series, people are going to learn how to adapt to them, and I don't know how quickly they can come up with new strategies.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Randy?
I agree. Same point. That's why I think teams like Fnatic would do well. If just looking at what they did in IEM, they started out looking awful, and they somehow made it to the finals. Even though at the end they did get pub stomped.
Yeah.
They got there.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
I think historically TSM has been very good at best of series, but mind you, they're good at best of series where there's only wins and losses, so 3s and 5s, not 2s. So maybe that's going for TSM. Historically, C9 has been good at good at best of series. We always hear the reverse sweep C9 thing where they draw 2 games and they win 3 in a row. So that might be good for C9 as well. And
it's also going to be good for Cloud9 as well too. They're very good at.
That's exactly what I said, dude.
Oh, I think it's CLG. Sorry.
C9.
I think CLG is pretty good in all formats.
Yeah, CLG would be pretty good in all formats because it's like a very...
They're not individually based
good.
They're like very good macro based, so they're coachable, very coachable.
For sure. Another team that's been floating around that people are saying is not going to do so well in the best of series is Immortals. What are your thoughts?
I can kind of see that because the way that they play, they're so aggressive. They don't give you time to breathe and think about how they're doing things. But once you extend that series in a longer run, those more experienced teams are going to be able to pick things up if they keep the same strategy for that same series. So
they have been looking a little shakier towards the end of the season where they have had more, early game scares. Mm-hmm. Obviously, most of the time they pull out during late game, but then, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's exciting.
Yeah, and also because, like Immortals, we never really saw them do anything crazy with their picks and bans and anything like that. They were really consistent until the end of the season, where I think they're starting to try to show off a little bit more of the picks they have because they're starting to get predictable. Yeah. So.
All right. I guess one last thing I want to touch on is, obviously, since we're running a fantasy podcast, how do you guys think fantasy is going to work, Randy?
I think they'll just average it out. So for the week, how many points did that person average?
Oh yeah.
I hope they don't do that, really. If it does come down to best of 3, like a game of 3, I think they should only count the first 2 games. Kind of like how right now, if the teams tie in their position, they do a tiebreaker if necessary. And then they don't count the scores for the tiebreaker at all. It's just the main games that count. So hopefully they only count the first 2 games that matter. I think it's a little bit unfair. Yeah. But if they do count all 3 games in North America and they count only 2 games in EU, of course, the NA players are going to be way more valuable than the EU.
Yeah, I honestly highly doubt they'll do that because... Yeah,
there's no way.
I really don't know what they're going to do. I feel like averaging out it makes sense, but then from a fantasy standpoint, it's not the best practice because, people have like free games that get a pentakill that gets averaged out and, then it's just a little unfair that way. So I really don't know, but I'm pretty eager to see where Riot's going to take this whole fantasy thing. In the worst case scenario, they'll just go like, yeah, we don't know what to do. We're just going to like cancel fantasy. No Christmas for you guys, but hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, and even if you're gonna go average the stats out, you can average things like CS. You can average kills, death, or whatever. But what if it comes down to pentakills or 10 plus kills or assists? How do you average those kind of things out?
Yeah,
right.
Oh, you just average the total score in the end. If you score 30 and then 10, you just get 20.
But then it's like those other factors don't even matter anymore. Then, right?
No, but if you were to
if you're looking at just the total points, then it does make a little bit of sense there. But I don't think it doesn't, I don't know, it takes away from the player's individual play. Because you might have shit the bed really bad in one game or something, and then because you had 2 good games, averages out to a good score, right?
I think that's reflective of the team. If the team goes 3 games, then average out 3. Mathematically, it's like the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
Unless they force you to pick games.
Yeah, another thing is the way that Fantasy LCS works compared to, say, like Fantasy Basketball, where, you do take in Fantasy Basketball, you do take into consideration how many games a player is going to play that given week, and you make decisions that way, but unfortunately in Fantasy LCS, that's just not something that we have. So I guess all we can do is wait and see. So any final thoughts on best of 2 versus best of 3 formats?
I think they should do the best of 2, in my opinion. I would like to see that more than the best of 3.
Yeah, I vote best of 2 as well. And one last thing I really want to point out that I don't really like is that they are splitting the stream schedule, so they're going to have 2 channels with simultaneous games. Now you have to pick which game you want to watch.
And then rewatch the other ones later.
Yeah, and don't quote me on this, I don't remember correctly, but there might be an overlap between EU and NA as well. Yeah, there's going to be overlap between EU and NA because EU is Thursday, Friday, and NA is Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's not going to be fun for us for sure. Because there's a lot of games for us to watch.
Yeah, so we actually have to. We can't go like, yeah, I'm out of country this week. Can you guys watch for me? Because you just can't make it through all the games. So it's going to be a very challenging split ahead of us.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the 9-Man Report. If you guys want to hear us talk about something specific, leave it in the comments below. Click the like button and share this with your friends. Subscribe and click to the top left over here and watch some of our previous videos. Thanks for the carry.